A call from the bank confirmed I owed $617,000 for a mortgage I never signed. The scammer? Not some stranger. It was my cousin, Mila. She was rocking an $11,400 bracelet bought with my identity, living large in a mansion with my name on the deed right in Westlake Hills. But the number didn't paralyze me. It was the family photo attached to the property file. My face had been violently ripped out of the silver frame, sitting right next to her Tesla key fob. And the most messed up part? That picture was taken on their housewarming night. I was literally inside, laughing, totally oblivious I was about to be erased. They thought a simple social worker would just shut up and take the hit. They were dead wrong. Tonight, at that very family dinner table, I'm going to show them a payback scarier than losing $1 million house. Look, if you've ever been stabbed in the back by the person you trusted most, wiped out, and felt that crushing pain of everything being stolen, you need to hit that subscribe button right now. This is the first fierce move you make for yourself. A declaration. A promise you will never let anyone decide your worth or your future again. Tonight is our monthly family dinner. And in my bag, a thick police file ready to flip their entire world upside down. My name is Rachel Monroe, 31. I had a life that felt solid. Not flashy, but good enough to make me smile every morning. I'm a social worker in Austin, Texas. 7 years in the trenches, mostly helping kids in tough spots. The job is brutal, but every time a kid finds a stable home, I know it matters. My apartment is in South Lamar. It's tiny, but it's home. Sunlight hits the cacti I meticulously care for. My friends joke it's a miniature desert, but those plants brought me peace. That peace was about to shatter. 8 months ago, when they showed off the Westlake Hills mansion, Mila looked at me funny, like she knew a secret I hadn't figured out yet. My mom passed when I was 8, so my Aunt Melissa took me in like her own. Melissa and my cousin Mila, just a year older, were everything I had. We used to run around Zilker Park, laughing until our stomachs hurt. Melissa was always the strong one. Mila? She was the confident older sister, always the darling of the crowd. I was always the shy one, choosing books over the spotlight. Mila was the star, cheer captain, prom queen, always surrounded by a loud crew. I quietly found my voice years later, majoring in social work. But here's the crazy part. We never had a rivalry. I still remember Mila defending me against bullies in middle school. She was like a hero from my favorite novels. I honestly admired her shine. As adults, we went down totally different paths. Mila married a lawyer, stepping into the penthouse Tesla, perfect Instagram life. Mediterranean yachts, limited edition Gucci, cocktails at bougie rooftop bars. Even after her divorce, she maintained that admirable, everything is perfect facade. Melissa, her mom, was a hotel mogul, a straight-up businesswoman. She invested in million-dollar boutique hotels in East Austin. Always crisp suits, perfect bun, and a smile that made you trust her instantly. Me? Still single, drowning in work, and occasionally forced on disastrous dates by my friends. Mila constantly teased me about my boring life. She kept pushing me to invest in tech stocks or real estate, stuff way out of my social worker league. I just laughed it off, thinking she genuinely cared. But looking back now, that look wasn't concern. It was disguised contempt, a sophisticated plan brewing. A plan to turn me into a pawn for her own luxury dream. Still, we kept our routine. Coffee every couple of weeks at Joe's Coffee on South Congress, and those monthly family dinners at Melissa's place. Then, 8 months ago, the big shift happened. Melissa and Mila moved from their downtown condo to a modern mansion in Westlake Hills. It's that crazy rich neighborhood with lush trees and pools sparkling under the lights. Stepping into that housewarming party, I was genuinely blown away. Gleaming hardwood floors, an open-concept kitchen with a giant granite island, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over green hills. Mila gave me the tour, pointing out the imported Italian chandeliers, the Sub-Zero fridge, the expensive art. "One day you'll have something like this," Mila told me, patting my shoulder. "Just gotta dare to dream a little bigger, Rachel." I smiled back, but deep down, a tiny spike of envy hit me. Not because of the luxury, but Mila's sheer confidence, like she was entitled to everything in the world, no matter the cost. I was brewing coffee in my tiny South Lamar kitchen when my phone blew up. I usually don't answer while getting ready for work, but I was waiting for an update for a single mom I was helping. A housing confirmation. Hello? This is Rachel Monroe? I mumbled, trying to wipe spilled coffee off the floor while wedging the phone on my shoulder. Hello, Miss Monroe. I'm Craig Hensley from Wells Fargo. I'm calling about $617,000 mortgage that's 3 months past due. If we don't receive payment, we have to start foreclosure. My heart practically stopped. A mortgage? What loan? I don't own a house. I rent my apartment. The guy's voice went stone cold, like I was trying to pull a fast one. Ma'am, our records show you borrowed $617,000 back in February to purchase a house in Westlake Hills. You made the first 3 payments, but we haven't received anything since May. Westlake Hills. The name echoed like a siren in my head. Wasn't that where Mila and Aunt Melissa just moved? There's definitely a mistake, I insisted, my voice cracking. A colleague passing by my office desk glanced over, frowning. I'm a social worker, not a millionaire. My credit score wouldn't even touch that kind of loan. A moment of silence. The application shows an annual income of $187,000, credit score of 780 upon submission. We have all the documentation, including your signature on multiple forms. Can you come to the branch to review the file? The call dragged on like some surreal nightmare. I agreed to go to the bank after work, my brain spinning out of control. At the Wells Fargo branch in downtown Austin, the manager, Thomas Rivera, opened a thick file. Every single page was a stab in the heart. The loan application, the income verification, the credit checks, all bearing my signature, but none of them mine. This is a copy of your driver's license and W-2 submitted with the application, Thomas said, his voice low. The income claimed is $187,000 a year from a consulting firm. They verified you were working remotely. I went ice cold. They didn't just forge a signature. They manufactured an entire fake identity and career for me, complete with some shell company Melissa must have ties to, enough to fool a routine bank check. The file even showed a $50,000 down payment receipt from a bank account also in my name. I didn't even own that account. And then I saw it, right there in black and white. The collateral address matched Mila's modern mansion in Westlake Hills. Can I get copies of everything? I asked, my voice sounding distant, not even like my own. Thomas hesitated. Technically, these are already yours, but given the circumstances, I can print extras. He looked at me, serious. Miss Monroe, if you didn't do this, you need to call the police right now. This is major identity theft. I nodded, but inside, I was screaming. Not some random scammer. Aunt Melissa, who raised me. Mila, my sister. They stole my whole life to buy their dream house. The next few days were a blur of panic. I took my first sick days in 3 years, unable to focus as my entire life collapsed. My South Lamar apartment, once my safe haven with the cacti, felt like a cage. I paced, clutching the bank file, swinging between blinding rage and denial. Could it be a mistake? Did Melissa accidentally use my name? But sitting at my kitchen table, going through every page Thomas gave me, that hope vaporized. This wasn't an administrative error. Someone meticulously forged my signature on dozens of documents. Someone knew my social security number, my birth date, my employment history. Someone very, very close to me. I called Equifax, my hands shaking as I dialed. The operator, her voice monotone, asked for my info. Let me pull your credit report, Miss Monroe. The tapping went silent, then a pause. There are several accounts opened in the past year. The mortgage is the biggest, but also a $160,000 unsecured loan, 3 credit cards maxed out at $30,000 each, that's $90,000, and a $45,000 personal loan. I felt nauseous. It's all fake. I didn't open any of those. I understand, ma'am, she said, her tone shifting to sympathy. I'm setting a fraud alert on your account immediately and sending instructions to dispute each charge. You need to contact TransUnion and Experian right away, too. By the end of the day, I'd hit all 3 credit bureaus. Fraud alerts were set. My credit score? It plummeted from a decent 718 down to a trash 532. Financial ruin. Just like that. I sat by my window, watching the sun hit the cacti, wondering, how did I not see this coming? My score, once a respectable 718, was now a disaster because of those mortgages and maxed out credit cards I knew nothing about. The next morning, I met James Carter, a financial advisor. His East Austin office was bright, smelling like fresh coffee. but nothing could lift the rock sitting in my chest as I shoved the bank file across his desk. "This is clearly identity theft," James confirmed, his voice firm after flipping through the pages. "And a very sophisticated one. Whoever did this knew exactly what information was needed to bypass every verification step." "It was Aunt Melissa," I heard myself say. It was the first time I'd ever spoken the accusation out loud. "That house, Mila is living there." James stared at me, his eyes shifting from professional to stunned. "Family fraud is messy, legally and emotionally. You have to file a police report for the bank to recognize you as a victim, not a co-conspirator." "But I get it. Pushing family into prison, that's tough." I was hesitant, honestly. Even with the mountain of proof, I couldn't fathom Melissa, who raised me since I was 8, who sewed my prom dress, doing this. And Mila, my cousin? How could she trash my life for a mansion? There had to be an explanation. Before calling the cops, I did my own digging. I hired a handwriting expert, Lisa Nguyen, downtown. She compared the loan signatures with my real lease and work documents. "It's a forgery," she concluded, examining them under a scope. "Very skilled, but fake. See that hesitation loop on the R curve? The forger was copying, not writing naturally." "Can you testify if needed?" I asked. Lisa nodded. "I'll need a deeper analysis, but preliminarily, yes." Next, I dug into Melissa's and Mila's finances. As family, I couldn't access their accounts, but through Instagram and mutual friends, things started looking weird. Melissa's $2 million boutique hotel project in East Austin had completely crashed. Her partner bailed. She was stuck with $500,000 in high-interest debt. Pure desperation. Mila, post-divorce, kept up the polished facade. The Tesla, the Gucci, the Maldives trips. But mutual friends whispered Mila had been denied a car loan because her credit score was abysmal. The final, gut-wrenching proof came from my friend Trina, a realtor. At our usual spot, Joe's Coffee, her voice dropped to a whisper. "I shouldn't say this, but Mila was denied the home loan. Her credit was trash." Trina leaned in. I overheard Melissa yelling at her in the parking lot. "Just use Rachel's name and this whole mess is over." The air around me suddenly thickened. I could barely breathe. That house, that $1 million mansion with my name on it, that was the final piece. But the real shock came when I tracked the fake credit accounts. They all linked to one email: rachel.monroe.tx@gmail.com. One tiny, chilling dot, different from mine. I clicked the credit card statement. March 14th, my 30th birthday. $11,400 transaction at Tiffany & Co. The bank security photo showed Mila, beaming at the counter, holding the credit card with my name. She used my identity to buy my birthday gift, a diamond necklace that she wore that very night, telling me, "This is for us, Rach. You deserve it." That moment I knew. This wasn't just fraud. This was a calculated, smiling mockery. She didn't just steal my money. She rubbed my face in it with a smirk. Every piece of evidence wasn't just a fact. It was a knife twisted deep into my trust. Melissa and Mila, my family, had turned me into a tool for a luxury dream they couldn't afford. After a week of intense digging, I was done stalling. Tomorrow night, at the family dinner table, I will drop that file. Right in front of the people I called blood, to expose the horrific truth they thought they'd buried forever. Heart heavy, I drove to the Austin Police Department. The decision was sealed in my gut. I was turning in my own family. The detective sighed after the brief rundown. "Look, family fraud is the messiest stuff we handle." He explained the complexity. "They knew all your details. This was sophisticated. It's going to take time and proof. More importantly, are you ready for your entire family to turn on you? Are you ready for them to sue you for defamation?" I felt like I was staring down an impossible mission, but quitting meant losing everything. I had to roll the dice. This wasn't some flashy Hollywood courtroom, just a rundown building, yellow fluorescent lights, cold, hard plastic chairs. I waited nearly an hour, hugging the police file. My heart was practically punching its way out of my chest. Then my name. I walked in. The legal machine was finally starting to grind. A petite woman walked up, blonde hair pulled back tight, tired eyes. "I'm Detective Sarah Lawson. Sorry for the wait. Follow me." She led me to a small interview room, just one table, 3 chairs, and a camera mounted high in the corner. I glanced at it. Lawson said matter-of-factly, "Standard procedure. Protects us both. You're here to report identity fraud, correct?" "Yes," I choked out. My voice was smaller than I wanted. It's my aunt and my cousin. Lawson raised an eyebrow. A flash of surprise, then back to total pro. Family fraud isn't rare, but it's always tricky. Start from the beginning. Give me every single detail. For the next 2 hours, I spilled the whole damn story. The Wells Fargo call, the $617,000 mortgage I never applied for, the maxed out credit cards, that Westlake Hills mansion Mila was living in, all bought with my stolen identity. Lawson took notes, interrupting sometimes. Did you ever share bank accounts? A safety deposit box? Did they ever live under your roof? No, I confessed, feeling like the biggest idiot on the planet. But we were close. Aunt Melissa came over a lot. My passport, important documents. They were in an unlocked file cabinet in the kitchen corner. I never thought I needed security against family. Lawson looked at me, her gaze softening slightly. Nobody expects betrayal from family. Don't blame yourself. I finished talking. She leaned back. Miss Monroe, I need to be clear. Filing this report means a full-on investigation. If the evidence holds up, your aunt and cousin face serious criminal charges. Identity fraud and mortgage fraud are felonies. They could see hard time. Are you ready for that? That question hit me like a punch to the gut. Was I ready to put Melissa, the woman who raised me, who held me through nightmares, in prison? Was I ready to wreck Mila's life and potentially leave little Lily without her mom? I flashed back to Zilker Park, Mila pushing me high on the swings. Can you imagine being forced to choose? Yes, I said. My voice was firmer than I expected. I have to protect myself. If they face consequences, they chose this path, not me. Lawson nodded. I get it. It's a brutal decision. We'll keep the investigation quiet for now, but if we file charges, it becomes public record. She slid a form across the table. This is the identity fraud complaint. Read it carefully before you sign. I signed the paper, my real signature, not the fake one on that mortgage file. I felt relief wash over me, quickly followed by paralyzing fear. The gears of justice were turning. I couldn't hit the brakes now. Trina was waiting in the lobby. I needed a friend for this huge step. Done? How did it go? She asked, pulling me into a hug. Yeah, reporting family for a felony is just awesome, I replied, trying to joke, but my voice was shaking. We hit a small coffee shop on South Congress. Sipping my lukewarm latte, I filled her in. Lawson said they're investigating immediately, contacting the bank, pulling records, maybe interviewing Melissa and Mila. What do you think they'll say? Trina frowned. Melissa will deny everything. She's a master manipulator, remember? Mila, she'll probably blame her mom or use Lily as an excuse. But Rachel, listen, they never planned to pay that back. You were just a tool for their flex. I looked out the window at the sunlight hitting the oak trees. I used to think maybe they were planning to pay it back, but they stopped paying in May. They had no exit strategy. They just wanted the sweet life on my dime. 2 days later, Lawson called. Miss Monroe, we confirmed your suspicion. I held my breath. The mortgage application was submitted online, using your personal info. But the IP address? It traces straight back to Melissa's old house in Hyde Park. We're also looking into Mila's role. These kinds of financial scams are rarely a solo operation. I sank back into my armchair, clutching the phone. It felt right, but it felt so wrong. The truth was finally out. So why did my heart still feel like a heavy, shattered rock? Lawson didn't stop there. There are signs they plan to file bankruptcy in your name once the debt got too hot. We found search history on Melissa's computer about bankruptcy law and identity debt evasion. The sheer ruthlessness of that plan froze me. It wasn't just stealing when they were broke. They planned to utterly destroy my financial future to save their own skin. Mila, as the house's main beneficiary, definitely had to know. She probably helped plan it. A week after filing the report, I got the official file. A massive binder of evidence against Melissa and Mila. Bank statements showing transfers from the account in my name to theirs. Forged applications. Credit card receipts for luxury spending at Nordstrom, fancy downtown Austin restaurants, places I couldn't afford to even window shop. That night, I sat at my Southamore kitchen table, reading every page, highlighter in hand. The police had built a tight case. The prosecutor felt confident. Tomorrow was the monthly family dinner at Melissa's house in Hyde Park. Mila would be there, still thinking their plan was undetected. She didn't know I'd received the foreclosure notice addressed to homeowner Rachel Monroe. She didn't know I'd been investigating for weeks. She didn't know the police file was sitting in my purse, ready to blow up their lives. As I got ready for bed, my phone lit up. Text from Aunt Susan. See you tomorrow. Melissa is making those barbecue ribs you love. Love you both. The pure normalcy of that message broke me. I cried for the first time since the nightmare began. Not just for myself, but for Susan, who was about to watch her family shatter. The next morning, I rehearsed what I would say, determined to stay calm and composed. I wouldn't shout or accuse. They didn't deserve that satisfaction. I would place the file on the table and let the truth speak for itself. The phone rang while I was dressing. Rachel, you're still coming tonight, right? Susan asked, her voice cheerful. Melissa is making your favorite corn on the cob. Mila brought pecan pie from that place on South Congress. She's so thoughtful. Thoughtful, I repeated, trying not to laugh bitterly. Thoughtful enough to buy pie on my fraudulently opened credit card? Yes, I'll be there at 6. See you then. I hung up, and a text from Mila made my heart jump. Heard you took the whole week off? I'm kind of worried. I'll grab your favorite tacos tonight. We should talk, you sound stressed. My breath hitched. Was she fishing? Using fake concern to probe for information? I typed back quick. I'm fine, just tired. See you tonight. But I knew, one slip up, and the plan was dead before it even started. I carefully folded the file into my bag and walked out the door. I took almost an hour picking my outfit. Strange, given the circumstances, but necessary. White shirt, black pants. Simple, serious. I hid the dark circles under my eyes. Mila wasn't going to see me broken. They didn't deserve that. Driving toward Hyde Park, I passed Zilker Park. The memories hit like a tidal wave, running through the sprinklers with Mila, our laughter echoing under the live oak trees. Last Christmas, Melissa was telling stories, making us all cry laugh. Tonight would be the last time those memories were whole. After tonight, everything shattered beyond repair. I parked a block away from Melissa's house, needing the last few minutes to gather my courage. Mila's white Tesla sat smugly in the driveway, the car she called the reward for hard work. A question pierced my heart. Was that luxury car also bought with my credit, my name? The rich smell of barbecue ribs wafted out, a scent that used to mean comfort, now reeking of pure deception. For a weak second, I wanted to turn the car around, drive home, fake being sick. I could confront Melissa privately, give them a chance to fix it without imploding the family in front of everyone. But Lawson's email flashed in my mind. Filing bankruptcy in Rachel's name. Will be clean. They didn't just use me. They planned to annihilate my financial future to save themselves. They planned to make me the sacrificial lamb for their luxury dream. No. They deserved zero mercy. I took a deep breath, my finger trembling as I pressed the doorbell. The chime sounded like a final judgment, permanently ending whatever family we used to be. My chest was tight. That smell of barbecue ribs? It was now the suffocating stench of betrayal. The chime wasn't a greeting. It was a death knell. I hit Melissa's doorbell. The police file in my purse felt heavy as a cinder block. Aunt Susan opened the door, beaming. Even at 60, she was full of energy, her salt and pepper hair stylishly cropped. Rachel, there you are. She hugged me tight. You look amazing, but so serious. Everything okay with work? I'm fine, Aunt, I lied, hugging her back. Just totally wiped out from a rough week. Inside, Melissa was in the kitchen. The barbecue rib smell was thick and welcoming. She wore a silky blue blouse, hair in a tight bun, looking like she'd just walked out of a high-stakes board meeting. Rachel, you finally made it. Her voice was as bright and warm as always. I was just telling Susan about my new East Austin hotel project. You should meet my partners. They need a social consultant. Perfect gig for you. I was stunned by the sheer audacity. This woman who'd just stolen my identity was offering career advice? I forced a painful smile. I'm happy where I am, thanks. If Melissa registered my coldness, she didn't show it. Mila's out on the patio, helping with the corn. Susan insisted on doing both ribs and mashed potatoes tonight. You'll be eating leftovers all damn week. Trina arrived shortly after, with my cousin Lisa and her 2 kids. Lisa immediately brought up Mila's mansion. Mila's living room is breathtaking, Rachel. That afternoon sun hits those windows. It's like an art installation. With your green thumb, you'd love the reading nook Mila set up. Totally your vibe. Mila shot me a sharp, unreadable glance before jumping in. It's still under renovation. The contractor is killing me. Total nightmare. I bit my tongue. That reading nook and the entire house was bought with my stolen name. Dinner was agony, masked as normal. Melissa carved the ribs. Susan spooned the mash. Red wine flowed freely. Lisa gossiped about her design projects. The kids chattered about school. Mila expertly killed any conversation about finance or the house, always redirecting. Rachel, you're awfully quiet tonight, Susan observed as we finished the main course. Tough week, honey? Melissa cut me off before I could speak. Oh, leave her be. Not everyone needs to spill their guts like Mila. She laughed, touching her hair. Some people just need privacy. The irony made me physically sick. The woman about to face felony charges was lecturing me on privacy? Actually, I said, meeting Mila's eyes dead on. I do have something I need to talk to everyone about. A flicker of panic crossed Mila's face, but her professional smile was back instantly. Sounds serious. Why don't we wait for dessert? I brought your favorite pecan pie, Rach. This can't wait, I stated, my voice unwavering. Silence crashed over the table. Even the kids stopped laughing, sensing the sudden, brutal tension. Susan spoke softly. Lisa, darling, why don't you take the children into the living room? They can have some screen time. Once the kids were gone, I reached into my purse and pulled out the police file. My heart was hammering, trying to break free. Mila stared at the binder, her perfect smile shattered. What is that, Rachel? Susan asked, her voice thick with dread. I took a long, deep breath. This is the moment. My hand trembled as I placed the file on the table. A tiny part of me wanted to run, to save this family, but I knew I couldn't back down. This, I said, my hand resting on the file, is a police report. A crushing, heavy silence consumed the room. Susan's eyes widened, and she squeezed her napkin until it was a wrinkled mess. Melissa slowly placed her wine glass down, her hand shaking so violently it made a tiny, sharp clink. Mila, across from me, clenched her fists under the table, her knuckles white. A police report? Susan repeated, her voice a fragile whisper. Rachel, what's going on? Are you all right? I'm not all right, Aunt, I said, my gaze never leaving Mila. I'm the victim of a crime. I slid the file toward her. Identity fraud. Identity fraud and grand theft, to be specific. I corrected, my voice calm but razor sharp. Melissa immediately put her hand to her chest, instantly playing the victim. Rachel, what are you saying? I raised you. How could you suggest such a thing? Mila, instead of panicking, immediately shut down and grasped her mother's arm. Mom, don't be upset. Rachel must have been scammed or misunderstood something. They erected a perfect wall of innocence in 2 seconds flat. Mila wouldn't touch the file. Her face was frozen, the confident smirk totally gone. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice high and unnatural. Open it, I commanded, my voice dropping low and lethal. Who the hell do you think you are? Mila snapped, genuine anger flashing through her fear. Bringing a stack of documents here to threaten the whole family. Are you crazy? Susan, the lifelong peacemaker, tried to smooth things over. Is this some kind of joke, kids? I don't understand. It's not a joke, Aunt, I said, reaching across the table to open the file myself, revealing the top sheet with the Austin Police Department header and the case number. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Wells Fargo about a $617,000 mortgage I never applied for, on a house I don't own in Westlake Hills. Susan gasped, her voice trembling. But that's the house Mila and Melissa are living in. Exactly, I continued, looking directly at Mila. The mansion they flaunt all over Instagram was bought using a fraudulent loan in my name, along with a $160,000 home equity line, 3 credit cards, and a personal loan. All maxed out, all delinquent. All eyes fixed on Mila. Her face was paper white. The silence stretched for several agonizing seconds, then Mila forced a thin, dry laugh. Nonsense. It's obviously a banking error or something. It wasn't a mistake, I cut in. The handwriting expert confirmed the forged signatures. The IP address traces the application back to Melissa's old house in Hyde Park. The police don't think it was a mistake either. Melissa shot up from her chair, almost knocking it over. We don't have to listen to these accusations, Mila. Let's go. Sit down, Susan commanded, her voice low and furious, a tone I'd never heard from her. Both of you. You will explain this immediately. Mila suddenly changed. The panic vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating look. Fine, you want an explanation? We were struggling. Mom's hotel project crashed, and she was drowning in debt. My credit was destroyed after the divorce. We were about to lose everything: the house, the car, everything we'd built. We had no choice. You had no choice but to steal my identity? I asked, incredulous. To saddle me with almost $900,000 in debt that I knew nothing about? Mila's voice escalated. It was only temporary. Once Mom was back on her feet, once I found a new contract, we were going to refinance in our own names. Everything would have been fine. That is a lie, I stated, my voice low and lethal. The police found the email you sent your mother. File bankruptcy in Rachel's name, and we'll be clean. You weren't planning to fix it. You were planning to annihilate my future to save yours. Susan started sobbing, her shoulders shaking uncontrollably. Lisa, sitting next to her, was red with fury. Mila, tell me that isn't true. Tell me you didn't do this to Rachel. For a split second, Mila looked like she might keep lying. Then she slumped in her seat. We were desperate. You don't understand what it's like to have everything: a beautiful house, a dream life, and watch it slip away. Friends, colleagues, Instagram, everyone expected me to succeed. I couldn't let Lily see her mom fail. I expected you to be my cousin, I said, my voice breaking. To love me, not betray me. Melissa whirled on Mila, her voice sharp. I told you this was risky. I told you we needed to find another way, but you insisted. What other way, Mom? Mila screamed back. You left us with a mountain of hotel debt. You told me to buy the house to keep Lily stable, but my credit was trashed. We had to do this. Doing this is a felony using Rachel's identity. Lisa cut in, her voice shaking with outrage. Do you realize the consequences? You could go to jail. Susan stood up, her hand shaking. Get out of my house, both of you, right now. Aunt, please, Melissa began, tears welling up. Real or fake, I couldn't tell anymore. You have to understand. I understand perfectly, Susan cut her off, her voice icy. You stole from Rachel. You betrayed this entire family. You were willing to ruin my niece's life just to keep up appearances. I don't know who you are anymore. Melissa turned to me, pleading. Rachel, I raised you. Just this once. Please forgive me. There is no just this once, I replied, tears finally streaming down my face. You didn't just take money. You took my trust. You took my future. Mila stood up, venom in her voice. I have ambition. I have standards. You think I want to live like Rachel? In some tiny apartment with your little cactus garden for company? Her words sliced through me. That's how you see my life? A failure because I don't have a mansion or a luxury car? You could be doing so much more, Mila snapped, anger blazing in her eyes. You're smart, but you settle for mediocrity. Be honest, Rachel. What were you even doing with good credit anyway? Melissa grabbed Mila's arm. Enough, Mila. We're leaving. Mila turned back to me, her eyes a mix of hatred and fear. This isn't over, Rachel. You have no idea what you just did by filing that report. I know exactly what I did, I replied, my voice rock solid. I protected myself from criminals. That's what you are, felons, and now you will face the consequences. As they gathered their things to leave, Susan called out, her voice choked with tears. Mila, Melissa, the police, are they going to arrest you? Mila paused at the door. For a moment, I saw genuine, raw fear in her eyes. I don't know, Aunt. Maybe. I collected the file, stood up, and walked out, leaving the suffocating air and the shattered remains of my family behind. The room sank into a suffocating silence after they left. Susan wiped her eyes with a crumpled napkin, looking 10 years older. Lisa poured more wine, her hand still shaking. I should have known, Susan whispered, her voice raw. The luxuries, that house, we knew they couldn't afford it. I just thought they were being reckless, not this. Nobody knew, Aunt, I said, taking her hand. I never imagined Mila or Melissa would do this. With a stranger, maybe, but not with me. Lisa looked at the file on the table. What happens now? What will the prosecutor do? They plan to file charges, I replied. Detective Lawson said with this evidence, it's almost certain Mila and Melissa will be arrested, probably this week. And the debt? Lisa asked, ever the pragmatist. The mortgage, the credit cards? I'm working with the bank to clear my name. It's a long process, but the police report proves I'm a victim. My credit score is still trashed, at least for now. We sat for hours that night, trying to process the shock and the betrayal. Trina came back after putting the kids to bed, and I told her everything. She was furious on my behalf. If you need it, I'll testify against them, Trina vowed, her eyes blazing. What they did to you is unforgivable. Driving back to South Lamar, I felt empty, like a vital part of me had been hollowed out. I had done what I needed to protect myself, but there was no satisfaction. Only the pain of losing the cousin I trusted and the knowledge that my family would never be the same. The days following the fateful dinner felt like a low-budget TV drama I was forced to star in. 3 days later, Detective Lawson called. Arrest warrants had been issued. Melissa and Mila were handcuffed right there at the Westlake Hills mansion, the house in my fake name, and charged with multiple felonies: identity fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. The story hit the local news. The headline read, "Austin Hotel Executive and Daughter Charged with Identity Fraud." The article identified the victim as their relative, thankfully without naming me. But anyone who knew our family could guess. My phone vibrated constantly with messages from friends, distant relatives, even old colleagues. "Are you okay? Did you know they were doing that? Are they going to jail?" I turned it off, unable to face even well-meaning questions. Susan and Lisa retreated into shells of shock and shame. Susan stopped going to her weekly book club, unwilling to face friends who had surely read the news. Lisa took a leave of absence from the community center, citing health reasons. The social circle they'd cultivated for decades in Austin suddenly felt like a threat instead of a support system. "People must be talking," Susan whispered during one of my visits. Her hair was uncombed, her face bare, a stark contrast to her usual polished appearance. Wondering where we went wrong with Melissa. "You didn't go wrong, Aunt," I reassured her, though, deep down, I wondered too. Were there signs of Mila and Melissa's corruption that we ignored? Mila's constant new designer bags, or Melissa's vague talk of investment opportunities? Were those the clues we missed? I couldn't stop thinking about Mila and Melissa. Did the family miss small signs, harmless lies, Mila's excessive boasting, or Melissa's habit of dodging questions about financial difficulty? Susan sighed. "I can't sleep. I keep thinking about where I failed to instill the right family values in Melissa." The pressure from the family to drop the charges started subtly, then became overt as Mila and Melissa's predicament became public. They were out on bail, but had to surrender their passports. Their assets were frozen, including the Westlake Hills mansion, which the bank was moving to foreclose on. "Melissa made a terrible mistake," Susan pleaded one evening over the phone, her voice laced with desperation. "But she's still my sister. She still raised you. Can't you talk to the prosecutor and ask them to reduce the charges? Maybe probation instead of jail?" "Aunt, they stole my identity," I replied, trying to keep my voice level. "They plan to file bankruptcy in my name. Do you understand how that would annihilate me? I wouldn't be able to rent an apartment, get a car loan, or even keep my job if it requires a credit check. They were willing to ruin my life." "Yes, but Mila has a child," Susan choked out. "Think about Lily, growing up without her mother." Lily, the innocent 6-year-old, was the one thing that made me waver. I loved Lily. I took her to Zilker Park and bought her ice cream after school. Now she might lose both her mother and grandmother because of my police report. I hung up from that gut-wrenching call, and my phone immediately rang. An unfamiliar number. The cold voice on the other end identified himself as Mila's attorney. "Miss Monroe, my client is willing to drop her countersuit for defamation if you withdraw the criminal complaint. If you don't, even if you win the criminal case, we will drag you into a civil suit that will financially exhaust you. Do you think you can afford that?" The pressure weighed heavily on my shoulders. The final blow had landed. I wondered if I should meet with the prosecutor, suggest a plea deal to keep Mila out of prison, or ask for restitution instead of jail time. Trina pulled me back to earth one night at a bar in East Austin. She slammed her margarita onto the table, her voice firm. "Listen up, Rachel. Mila and Melissa chose to commit a crime. They chose to hurt their own kin. They put Lily at risk by being felons. This is not on you. Their consequences are theirs to carry, not your damn burden." "What about Aunt Susan and Lisa?" I asked, my voice weak. "They are doing what family does, protecting the wrong people. But you are the victim here, Rachel. Don't let them guilt-trip you into thinking you're the bad guy for protecting yourself." Trina was right. The following week, I met the prosecutor, Elena Martinez. I made it clear: no withdrawal, no reduced charges. Miss Monroe, I admire your resolve, Martinez told me. So many family identity theft cases never see a courtroom because the victim buckles under the pressure. But these crimes have serious consequences, and they deserve to be prosecuted. The legal machine moved at a snail's pace. Preliminary hearings, endless motions from Mila and Melissa's high-priced lawyers, postponements that left me utterly drained. After almost a year of investigation and legal stonewalling, the trial officially began. 3 months of pure, agonizing stress. The day Mila and Melissa took the plea deal, 10 months after that cursed dinner, I sat in the courtroom, my heart pounding a rhythm against my ribs. Mila, visibly thinner, stood before the judge in a simple business dress, not a designer label in sight. Mila Nguyen, the defendant, pleads guilty to 1 count of identity fraud, 1 count of fraud, and 1 count of criminal conspiracy, the judge announced. Before I hand down this sentence, does the defendant have anything to say? Mila turned, her eyes scanning the audience until they landed on me. For a split second, I saw my old cousin again, the one who held my hand on hikes, the one who laughed by Barton Springs Pool. I want to apologize to Rachel, she said, her voice low but clear. What I did is unforgivable. I betrayed her trust in the worst way. I was selfish, I was desperate, I was terrified of failure. But that's no excuse to hurt someone who always loved and believed in me. I am sorry, Rachel. The judge sentenced Mila to 12 months in federal prison, Melissa to 18 months. Both were hit with 3 years of probation post-release and ordered to pay full restitution. Though with their careers utterly destroyed, I didn't know how they'd ever manage it. As Mila was led away, our eyes met one last time. There were too many unspoken things, too many wounds that would probably never heal. I didn't know if I could forgive her. But in that moment, I gave her a small nod, a quiet acknowledgement of the shared pain we both carried. After the sentencing, my emotions were a disaster. Anger and betrayal twisted up with genuine memories of our childhood. The weeks following the verdict were a frantic blur of paperwork. The bank foreclosed on the Westlake Hills mansion, selling it at auction for less than the loan amount. I worked with the credit bureaus to scrub the fraudulent accounts from my record, a grinding process of calls, certified letters, and endless paperwork. My relationship with Susan and Lisa was strained. They visited Mila often in the low-security facility, but rarely mentioned her to me. We tried to maintain some family connection, but conversations stayed on the surface, dodging the huge, painful elephant in the room. Thanksgiving came and went. The first time I hadn't gone to the family dinner. Susan invited me, but I opted for Trina's family instead. Christmas was equally divided. I dropped off gifts at Susan's, but didn't stay for dinner. The traditions that had bound our family for decades had shattered, along with the trust. The day the bank finally cleared the fake mortgage for my credit report, I felt like I was crawling out of a long, dark tunnel. My credit score was slowly recovering, though experts warned it could take years to get back to where it was. I moved into a new apartment in East Austin, a deliberate restart away from the bad memories. Spring arrived, and then a letter came. Not from Mila, who'd written a couple of apologies I wasn't ready to accept, but from Lily, Mila's daughter. Sloppy handwriting on pink paper. Dear Aunt Rachel, I miss you so much. Grandma says you are mad at Mom for doing bad things. I get mad at Mom too, like when she won't let me have 2 desserts, but I still love her. Do you still love Mom? Can you come visit me and my brother? Our new house is small, no garden like the old one. Love, Lily. The innocent perspective of a child who couldn't grasp the depth of the felony broke me. Whatever I felt about Mila, Lily was an innocent bystander. She deserved a loving aunt, even if that love had to be separate from her mother's betrayal. That night, I called Susan. I asked if I could visit Lily. Susan's voice was flooded with relief. Lily asks about you constantly. I'm taking care of her while Mila is away. She would love to see you. That weekend, the visit to Lily was the first step toward healing. Not necessarily forgiveness, but an acknowledgement that family ties, though deeply scarred, don't vanish completely. They just change, demanding new boundaries, new expectations, and a new definition of trust. 6 months after Mila went to prison, I started seeing noticeable improvements. My credit score, although not fully recovered, was at an average level. The fraudulent accounts had been removed, but There were still explanatory notes, forcing me to explain the situation every time I applied for credit for years to come. 2 years later, I happened to drive past the old mansion in Westlake Hills. A new family was holding a backyard barbecue, filled with the sound of children's laughter. I stopped the car and rolled down the window. And then I saw it, around the neck of the new woman who had moved in, sparkling in the sunlight, the $11,400 diamond necklace. It turned out that this symbol of deceit had been auctioned off along with Mila's assets. The fraudulent birthday gift now belonged to a complete stranger. In that moment, everything suddenly became clear. I smiled, stepped on the gas, and drove away. They had lost their house, their freedom, and their reputation. And I, who had nearly become homeless due to my own family, was now driving toward my actual house under my name, paying the mortgage with my own effort. The $11,400 necklace was now sparkling on a stranger's neck. But I was wearing something far more valuable: true freedom. If my story helps you find courage, comment freedom below, because you deserve it too. I moved into a new apartment in East Austin. It was smaller, but it had a better security system, with a mailbox only I could open. The first evening, I sat on the floor amidst unopened cardboard boxes, quiet in the chilling silence, the silence of someone trying to forget. I looked at the cacti carefully arranged on the windowsill, which had survived so much upheaval, and promised myself that I would too. The trauma lingered, like a companion I learned to live with rather than chase away. My weekly therapy sessions with Dr. Claire Nguyen became the foundation for my recovery. At first, I was hesitant to share my story with a stranger, but gradually, I found relief in that neutral space where I could express all my complex emotions without judgment. Betrayal from family creates a special kind of trauma, Dr. Nguyen explained in one of the first sessions. When the people we trust to protect us are the ones who inflict the wound, it shakes the very foundation of our belief system. Will I ever be able to trust anyone again? I asked, my voice half joking, laced with skepticism. You will learn to trust differently, she replied, her tone calm and steady. More cautiously, and more consciously. That doesn't mean it's better or worse, just different. A few weeks later, I received the first call from Aunt Susan. Her voice was hesitant, only asking if I was okay, if I needed anything. The conversation lasted less than 2 minutes, filled with awkward silences. But for me, it was a beginning. And Dr. Nguyen was right. I became more cautious, meticulously checking my bank statements, being careful with my personal information, and limiting the circle of people truly allowed into my life. But the most important thing was that I hadn't shut myself off completely. That was the biggest victory against the fear that had once consumed me during my darkest days. The relationship with Aunt Susan and Lisa gradually healed, though it could never return to what it was. The internal conflict they felt, wanting to support Mila while acknowledging my pain, created an underlying tension in every meeting. Nevertheless, we were trying. Sunday dinners returned, less frequent, with a skillful avoidance of the topic of Mila. Your aunt and Lisa visited Mila yesterday, Susan said during one dinner, observing my reaction. How is she? I asked, surprised by my own curiosity. She's doing well, teaching an English class to the other inmates, Susan replied. She asked about you. I nodded, but said nothing more. I wasn't ready to visit Mila, not yet able to face her through the prison glass and hear apologies that couldn't erase the past. Perhaps one day, but not now. Lisa, who had said little about Mila from the beginning, feeling ashamed of being caught between family lines, suddenly spoke up. She's changed in there. More humble. I think she's starting to understand how much damage she caused you. That belated acknowledgement from Lisa touched me more than I expected. Thank you for saying that, I replied softly. Unexpected support came from distant relatives, people I thought had drifted away after the scandal. My cousin Min, whom I had never been close to, contacted me and told me a story that stunned me. I haven't told anyone in the family, but in college, my roommates stole my identity, opened credit cards, and accumulated tens of thousands in debt. I understand, in part, what you went through. What did you do? I asked. Filed a police report, like you, he answered. I lost a few friends because they thought I was overreacting, but I don't regret it. Finding people who understood. Identity theft victims who truly knew the feeling of being violated became a crucial part of my healing journey. I joined an online support group, which led to in-person meetings with a financial crime victim network. There, I met people from all walks of life with similar stories. The shock of discovery, the grueling process of clearing their names from fake debt, and the relationships that fractured because relatives didn't understand why they couldn't just forgive and move on. In that community, I didn't have to explain or justify myself. They understood. Through this network, I connected with a nonprofit organization supporting identity theft victims. It was here that I found a new purpose. I started volunteering, using my bitter experience to guide others in similar predicaments. "You have a knack for this," the organization's director, Lynn, said after watching me counsel a new victim. "You're empathetic, but you don't shy away from the brutal reality they're facing." That work gave my pain meaning, and I distilled my hard-earned lessons to share. Check your credit regularly. Guard your personal information, like your identity itself. And above all, don't stay silent when you suspect something. Trina teased me. "Now you're an anti-fraud consultant. Next, you'll be selling fingerprint locks to victims, huh?" And the final, practical advice. Download a free credit monitoring app right now. It might save you from a birthday gift like Mila's. Anyway, I turned my pain into a beacon, however small, so that other ships wouldn't wreck in the same waters. Moving to the new apartment was necessary, a space that held no trace of the past. I replanted the cacti on the windowsill, quietly witnessing my own resurrection. The new apartment in East Austin was not just a place to live, but a symbol of a fresh start. I filled it with plants, as was my habit, but added new furniture that held no memories of the life before the betrayal. I set up a small office corner with a lockable filing cabinet, not because I feared my family would steal my identity again, but because experience had taught me the value of prudence. Nearly a year after Mila went to prison, I received a different kind of letter from her. Unlike her previous apologies, which focused on her regret or her own pain, this one specifically acknowledged the harm I endured. "I'm working with a therapist in here," Mila wrote. "She's helping me understand that true accountability is not just admitting the mistake, but realizing how my actions wounded you. I didn't just take your identity, Rachel. I took away your sense of security, your belief in our family, and your faith in my love for you. I can't fix it, but I want you to know I see clearly what I destroyed. I am not asking for forgiveness, and I don't expect a reply. I just want you to know that I understand what I did." I didn't reply immediately, but I kept the letter, reading it occasionally to reflect. This specific acknowledgement was different from the earlier vague apologies, more genuine, more complete, more conscious. Around the same time, I made a decision that surprised even myself. Using a portion of the restitution money from Mila and Melissa's seized assets, I put a down payment on a small house near Zilker Park, with a large garden area perfect for planting. The $50,000 restitution from the seized assets, combined with my small savings, was just enough for the down payment. I couldn't help but feel the irony. Mila's crime had inadvertently led me to own a house, the very thing she had falsely acquired in my name. The day I signed the real mortgage agreement, which should have been a purely joyful moment, was filled with mixed emotions. Sitting in the bank officer's office, reviewing documents nearly identical to the ones that had been forged, I felt a full circle moment. This time, my signature was real, carrying the resolve to reclaim control of my life. "Is everything okay, Miss Monroe?" the officer asked, noticing my hesitation. "Yes," I replied, signing my true name on the loan I chose and could afford. "Everything is fine, more than fine, actually." Owning the new house was a powerful act of taking back control. I painted the walls my favorite shade of green, planted a vegetable garden in the backyard, and hosted a housewarming party. The first party I had thrown since the fraud discovery. Trina brought champagne and a doormat that read, "Identity thieves not welcome." The dark humor made me laugh. Aunt Susan and Lisa also came, bringing a potted plant and awkward well wishes. They were trying, in their own way, to support this new chapter, even while maintaining contact with Mila. "That's a beautiful house, Rachel," Aunt Susan said, giving me a tight hug. "I'm so proud of you." "Proud of what?" I asked half-jokingly. "Of everything. Lisa replied. The way you faced everything with such dignity and strength. It wasn't a complete reconciliation that might take many more years if it was possible at all, but it was recognition, and that was significant. 2 weeks after the housewarming, I did something I had been considering for a long time. I drove to the federal correctional facility, where Mila was serving her sentence, and added my name to the visitor list. I wasn't ready to see her, but I wanted to keep the possibility open. As I continued rebuilding my life, I understood that healing wasn't a destination, it was a journey. Some days I felt strong, looking toward the future. Other days, the pain of the betrayal felt as fresh as if it had just happened. I learned to accept both as part of the process. The situation between Mila and me doesn't have a neat ending or a perfect resolution. The family bond, once broken by betrayal, cannot return to its original state. But it can transform into something new, something more honest, with clear boundaries and carefully rebuilt trust. I don't know if Mila and I can ever regain the closeness we once had. I don't know if I can ever completely trust her again. But I know I survived the worst betrayal imaginable, and I am stronger, wiser, and more independent than before. If there is a lesson from all of this, it is that trust is a precious thing, to be given consciously and protected with vigilance. I am still learning to balance an open heart with the necessary caution, a costly lesson, but one worth having. My journey taught me that trust is a valuable resource. It must be given carefully, protected properly, and withdrawn when necessary for self-preservation. I realized that love and trust are not the same. I can love Mila, but still acknowledge that she destroyed my trust in a way that may never fully heal. This experience showed me that family loyalty has limits, and it should have limits. Standing up for myself, even against loved ones, is not selfish, it is necessary. Forgiveness, if it comes, must follow accountability. It cannot replace it. More than a year after the trial, my family is still learning how to mend. Aunt Susan and Lisa started talking about Mila more openly, without the earlier avoidance. During one Sunday dinner, Aunt Susan shared, Mila says she is learning to live with the consequences. She wants to see you when she gets out, but she said she will respect it if you are not ready. I nodded, still unsure how I would react when that day comes. Thank you for telling me. I'll think about it. Lisa reached for my hand across the table. I'm not forcing you to do anything, but I am proud of how strongly you got through this. Small moments like these with Aunt Susan and Lisa are the first doors to a potential reunion. This isn't about going back to the past, but about building a new relationship, a more honest one, with clear boundaries drawn from the pain we experienced. In parallel, I spend more time with Lily, taking her to Zilker Park, and telling her about the childhood days Mila and I used to play there. I want her to understand, in the deepest sense, that my love for her is pure and intact, completely untainted by her mother's mistakes. The volunteer work at the Identity Fraud Victims Support Organization continues to nurture me. At workshops, I share my own story. Once, an attendee approached me and said, listening to you, I realized I'm not crazy for feeling angry at my own family. I think I can move forward. Those words touched my heart, reminding me that my own pain could transform into light, guiding others through the darkness. I also started writing a blog, documenting the journey from the initial shock to gradually reclaiming my inner strength. My posts resonated with strangers. I received emails telling of similar wounds. A brother using his sister's name to take out a loan, a mother forging her child's signature. Through every story, I truly felt that I was not alone, and I longed to spread that message. I clearly remember my first counseling session with Maria, a single mother. She wept as she told me how her older brother used her identity to finance a car. I didn't say much then, I just listened, then gently pushed my own police file across the table to her. I know, I said, my voice calm but firm. It feels like your whole world is collapsing, right? But we will find a way through this together. When I saw the panic in Maria's eyes gradually subside, I truly understood the meaning of my own journey. They tore my face out of the family photo and thought I would disappear forever. But today I stand here, not only having reclaimed everything, but also becoming the author who rewrites my own story. The biggest lesson I carry, no matter how much family betrays you, you are always stronger than you think. and you are never alone when you choose to stand up for yourself. If this journey sparks even a flicker of hope in you, please tap subscribe gently. Like a whisper to yourself, I will be okay too. Let me be your companion every week, healing with you, winning with you, and believing together that a beautiful ending is always reserved for those who dare to stand up. Thank you for being here. We are never alone anymore.